is up, Only Playbook fans? We're back for another episode. We are recapping week 14. This was the final regular season week before playoffs in most leagues are officially going to start. Did you clinch? Did you lose? Were you the guy that needed like 3 points from Kyler Murray and he tore his ACL and you didn't make the playoffs? Because I saw a lot of that on Twitter, which, man, that's one of the worst ways to do it, unfortunately. You know, like knowing you have your quarterback and your floor is so low, or your floor is so solid and you need barely any points, and then third play of the game, man.
Did you hear about the actual worst situation of all time? It involved Kyler Murray. So
and
one
Ramondre?
guy up 22 points, and he was playing against this what's the defense? The Patriots defense, and he lost by like decimal points.
Oh my God, bro.
That's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, those kind of things always make me feel better and be like, man, it could have like gone so much worse. You know, like whatever happened for all of us, it could have been so much worse.
Yeah.
That would have been so much worse of a way to not make the playoffs and
Yeah.
like have shit like that go down.
Sure.
So again, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that have crazy stories. We are going to talk all about the week 14 action, fantasy implications, and we will give out some awards. So without further ado, guys, let's kick it off with water cooler talk. Real quickly, I'd mentioned this. Probably the biggest. Nice. Thanks, Siri, for talking. The biggest injury for fantasy implications heading into the playoffs. So I think it's worth noting Kyler Murray last night goes down, tears his ACL. It's official. So he's out for season. That's sucky, man. Super sucky. And we'll talk more about that game. And there were so many other big injuries that kept happening that, you know, all this whole, you know, have you guys heard of this wave of the NFL players not wanting to play on turf and shit because of the injuries? Like it seems like that's more becoming a reality because some of these injuries last night were just like, dude,
wasn't that grass? That was outdoor.
Was it?
Pretty sure.
Yesterday's was grass, but there are other games.
Did Cardinals play on grass? Oh, I thought that for some reason I thought they played in turf because they were indoors or it's a dome.
The dome?
It is, or they have a retractable roof, don't they? Yeah.
I thought that was like years ago. Maybe I don't know. I don't fucking know.
I don't know. We could be all over the place here, but nonetheless, those injuries were the worst kind of injuries when you're not even getting hit and you go down. And usually the ones where you're not getting hit and you go down are like the worst kind of injuries. So it's very, very unfortunate. Obviously, you're going to have to pivot if Kyler was your quarterback and you're in the playoffs. Bills pick up a receiver. Cole Beasley is back with the Buffalo Bills. I don't really know if that's going to have any fantasy implications, but you know, maybe it may because Isaiah McKenzie seemed to be the slot guy for a while, and he's kind of coming and going. And Gabe Davis is the one-hit wonder, so the only constant there is Stephon Diggs. Maybe they're looking for another surefire third down receiver, and he got some volume and targets there when he played. So I don't know what you want to make of that. I just wanted to real quickly highlight the top 5 order of draft picks real quick again, because we had another shuffle. Houston still is number 1, but because Denver lost, Seattle is now the number 2 spot right now in the draft. And, you know, this is a draft where there's like 3 quarterbacks, as always, projected to go in like the top 10. Does Seattle draft a quarterback, or are they sold on Geno Smith, do you think?
Geno Smith is like, you know, he's in the 30s now, right? So I think that it'd be wise for them to get and it's
30, maybe, right? Is he 30, 31 max?
Or and I think his deal was only a 1-year deal. So if they want him, they have to re-sign him. And depending on how much he's gonna cost them, it may be a wise choice to draft a quarterback.
It's just an interesting spot now because Seattle's in between another team, Chicago, who's 3, who also has a quarterback of the future, right? So again, Chicago, we've talked about their offseason plans and everything. They're in the perfect spot. They have their quarterback and they're going to be a top 5 pick. So they can literally put that up for teams that are desperate, and they can just trade back and accumulate picks on picks on picks and just surround Justin Fields with as much talent as possible. Philadelphia, number 4 now, and Detroit in the top 5, rounding out the top 5. So those are the top 5 draft picks. It seems like Houston's kind of a lock for the number 1 pick, but the rest of the top 5 probably going to shuffle before the season ends. That's all I have for water cooler talk. Real quickly, because playoffs have started, I did want to do another fantasy roundtable where we just go through our teams that are in the playoffs. If you have any lineup questions that you want to pose into the rest of us, we can kind of chime in. So I'm in 2 leagues. I obviously shit the bed in our league. I was the worst team, 2-12. So, you know, sometimes it'd be like that. But in my other league, I am 12-2. So I'm 12-2, got the number 1 spot, and my lineup is pretty locked in, except I do have to bench, you know, one player that, you know, in most leagues, in most lineups, you probably would not need to bench. So I want to run through my lineup with you guys real quickly. And then if you guys have anybody in your lineups you want to talk about, go ahead. So I have basically, so Hurts is my quarterback. That's a no-brainer. Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley are my running backs, but I also have Pollard, right? So all three of those guys, Pollard plays Houston, by the way, this week. So it's almost like all three of those guys I have to.
Pollard played Houston. He probably
Oh
played.
shit! Sorry. Yeah, they play Jacksonville. Sorry, Jacksonville. So another pretty decent matchup. But if I start those three guys, then I have between my three receivers, I have to bench one, which is Devontae Adams, Jamar Chase, or DeAndre Hopkins. Now, matchup wise, Hopkins is playing against Denver this week, so that could be the easiest benchable opportunity there. But I don't know. I don't know that. I mean, it's just weird having DeAndre Hopkins on your bench. And then the last thing is I have the two best defenses in the league. I have the Cowboys who play the Jags, and I have the 49ers who play Seattle. But I have that secret third defense we talked about, which is the Chiefs. I have the Chiefs defense also, and they play against Houston. So do I take the Chiefs against Houston in that advantageous matchup, or do I have two, home run hitting defenses in the Cowboys and 49ers?
I mean, you've been fading Houston all season long, and it's worked out pretty well. So why not just one more day?
That's a very good point. It's a very, very good
But
point.
that is not the advice that I would give in this situation.
I need advice. I need advice. I'm not playing against you, so I need to know what you would do in this
I'm not
situation.
a fan of the Chiefs defense. I'm just not. I don't trust them. They're bad. Their secondary is bad. But it is Houston. So it's like, if this is like the worst dynamics of all time. This is literally the worst decision you have to make in fantasy football, because either way it's gonna suck. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, like there's going to be points on my bench to be had for my defenses. There's no doubt about it. 49ers and Cowboys, I think they're the top two defenses in fantasy football. So like to bench those guys and play the Chiefs who are 11th, they have the better matchup. Again, it's one of those things where the good thing is it's a 2-week playoff. So, if I make a mistake, I still have a second week to make up for it. And my matchup's a little bit advantageous. I don't need to run through the opposing team, to be honest with you. But I just didn't know if you guys were in my situation. Do you go with the Cowboys defense, the defense that's kind of got me here this whole time? And then I saw what happened last week with the Cowboys defense against the best matchup possible. So do I play the matchups with the Chiefs or not? So that's kind of, if not for this past week with the Cowboys Houston game, which we'll talk about, I think I would have been like, yeah, I'm going to fade Houston because I expected the Cowboys to roll. But now it has me worried a little bit, just slightly.
Yeah, I think that Cowboys game, that was just an anomaly, really. The Cowboys and Texans game, I think that they just came out with like a different scheme that they weren't expecting. And then I don't know if this counts, but there was a fumble on the punt return, so that probably brought down 2 points for the Cowboys as well. But I mean, Cowboys are a good defense. They can get interceptions, they can get sacks, so you're gonna get a solid, solid
Who do they
point.
play?
But they play the Jags, right?
Cowboys are playing the Jags. Yeah.
And who did San Francisco play?
They play the Seahawks.
San Francisco's secondary is not that good, actually. If you really look at the numbers, they're like 23rd ranked, 25th ranked, and
It's the pressure.
It's the pressure. It's the pressure. How's Nick Bosa's health?
Yeah, that's a huge question mark for sure. That's going to be, I don't think I'd start the 49ers. I think I'd be between the Chiefs and the Cowboys, to be honest with you. But yeah. I think as of now, I'm just going to probably keep the Chiefs in my lineup till the very last minute.
It's not a bye week? I thought isn't this a bye week day for you?
No. So for us, it's not 16 playoffs. It's 14 playoffs in a 10-man league, and it's 2-week matchups.
Oh,
so there's no bye. Yeah, so there's no bye. So the grind don't stop, man. And so I mean, those are the biggest. Everybody else, like again, all my other team or players are auto starts, so it's hard to pivot. The only flexibility I do have is Freiermuth is my tight end. He's been pretty solid. He's been rock solid. He's tight end 6 on the year. But he was hobbling, and the last 3 games he's had 3 receptions each. Luckily, like one game, one for 50, and the other game one was a touchdown. But he's not getting the same volume as he was early in the year. And obviously, this past week, you have the fucking Evan Ingram boom, and he's sitting on my free agency. And I have Greg Dulcich also my free agency. So I'm like, okay, that if there was some teeter-tottering in my lineup to be done, it's the tight end position. So do you stick with Freiermuth 3 straight weeks of only 3 targets 3 weeks in a row in the playoffs? Or do I go Evan Ingram? Crazy, which I'm buying the stock a little too late in my opinion, so I don't pivot there. Or Dulcich, who is going against the 32nd ranked tight end position in the Arizona Cardinals.
I like Dulcich out of all of those options personally. I think Freiermuth is tough.
But
I think
Russell Wilson also concussion, so if he doesn't play, does that change your opinion? Does that change your opinion?
I'm thinking about the whole Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett thing, and I don't like Freiermuth if Mitch Trubisky is in the game. Mm-hmm. And Greg Dulcich with that matchup, I like those chances. And then Ingram, he performs one week and doesn't perform the next week. So you're really gonna bank on that against the Cowboys defense? I don't know. That's a tough one for me.
Yeah,
Show.
no input, man. Like no input. I have no input on this topic. It's everything's been talked about. There's nothing else to be talked about. It's Fryermuth. Like he did so well for the first half of the season. The last 3 games, the quarterback situation is huge. And like if it's Trubisky, like bro, like I'm benching everybody on that team if Trubisky is the starting quarterback. But this Evan Ingram thing's enticing. I did say this is the week to start him. They dropped 33 points. So, but do I think he's going to do it again? Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. So that's a huge trap, and I think a lot of people are going to jump into that one, and we'll see how it goes. But Trevor Lawrence is also playing his best freaking football ever, so maybe that amplifies like everything around him. And so I mean, all that being said. Evan fucking Ingram, god damn
it. Dude, here's how crazy the tight end position in fantasy football has been this year. Evan Ingram, after that performance last night or yesterday, he is tight end 4.
Yeah, this is why God invented outliers in statistics. This is
tight
the
end
reason.
4. He's gonna finish the season in the top 10, probably top 5, because the tight end position is so 1 week you get this from one random guy, and every other week it's 3.3, 4.6, 3.5. That's the shittiness. And recently it hasn't even been the top guys. Kelsey, single digits.
Yeah,
Andrews, single digits. Yeah. So again,
out loud and proud, 2.7.
If there's a position to change the course of fantasy football playoffs this year for teams, it's the tight end position. Some guy could have started Evan Ingram, and you had Kelsey all year, who's been dominating for you. The last 2 weeks, he does poop, and Evan Ingram goes off, and that could be the difference. So there is, again, having that surefire lineup is not a lockstep this year, just because the tight end position is such a wild card, and there's been injuries so recently heading into the playoffs. So I know that was a shit ton of time for me to talk about my teams. Do you guys have anything about your teams that you want to discuss?
Just 2 bye weeks. I don't want to get ahead 2 weeks early. So
shit, you get first round buys. Must be nice.
It is nice. It's definitely nice.
I bet it's nice. There's so many players that if I was on a bye week, I'd be so happy. Like Justin Fields against Philadelphia Eagles. That's going to be a tough matchup for me. But for me, I'm trying to figure out what to do with J.K. Dobbins. I'm trying to figure out if J.K. Dobbins gets a start over Najee Harris. And it's it's a stretch. See, the thing about J.K. Dobbins is he had over 100 yards, I think, and he had a touchdown. 20. Did you see that play where he broke through? And then he just looked like he got gassed or something.
He looked like he pulled his hamstring or something, and he was limping. He's literally limping. Yeah.
That's why. Did you watch the post-game interview when the girl was interviewing J.K. Dobbins? You guys watched that J.K. Dobbins interview? No, I suggest you both watch the J.K. Dobbins interview after this, because he was so happy. And then she asked him, "So how's that knee doing?" He's like, it's doing okay. I was like, wait a second. He said all these nice things, and just watch the interview, and then we'll touch back on that.
Yeah, so that's the only thing that I've got to figure out. If J.K. Dobbins is healthy enough for me to warrant a start, but it would be between Najee Harris or Foreman versus Dobbins.
What are the matchups?
What are the matchups?
Yeah, so Najee Harris is playing Carolina Panthers. Steelers are playing the Panthers.
Oh, shit. So Foreman.
Okay, so the Panthers are playing the Steelers. Okay.
Panthers are playing the Steelers. And then J.K. Dobbins is playing Cleveland, who are ranked 30th.
Dude, J.K. Dobbins is man, I'm pulling the trigger.
Well, you're waiting till injuries, because there's a chance he's literally going to be on the injury report on Wednesday. It's almost guaranteed. Almost guaranteed, right? Yeah. So you're going to play that by ear. But matchup wise, he's the one you deploy. And sadly, I think you bench Najee.
You don't bench Foreman, dude. Foreman's been killing.
Foreman's good, man. And he came back hurt this past week, and now it's another week removed, and he'll be healthier. And they still like him over Chuba. Chuba.
Yeah. But there is an argument to be made on why you bench Dobbins in this situation and why you start those other two. Can you guys guess what that reasoning would be?
Gus?
No. Every play of that game, your player is going to be on the field. That means all fantasy points can be maximized at all times. That's huge. I would drool over that shit. So just keep that in mind because if something happens and the games are lopsided, you have all your points available at all times.
That's a good point. Yeah. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, that is definitely a good point.
I've got till Sunday morning to figure this out. So I don't know. We'll see.
No,
We'll see what I do.
no defense maneuvering for you. Or are you on the Chiefs already?
I'm on the Chiefs. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't love it. I think the Chiefs got lucky with that one interception last game against the Broncos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Other than that, the
100%.
Broncos offense played really well.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but it's against the Texans, so
Man,
take
I'm praying for you guys because what I see when I see the Chiefs on the field is not something I'd want to start. Just wouldn't.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. It's gonna be something that probably on Saturday when we texting you guys. So
Yeah.
guys, Chiefs defense or Cowboys defense? I won't have made up my mind. It's
If it
just
wasn't
worth
the
talking about.
Texans, we would not be having this
Yeah, no. If it was not if it was any other team, the Chiefs wouldn't even be on the radar. It's it's just fading the Texans. That is it. That is all we got for the roundtable, guys. Let's jump into the recap action with the rundown. First game on the board, the New York Jets and their 10-point underdog selves were traveling to Buffalo. We didn't understand the line. Well, obviously the Jets covered that spread, but they did lose the game 20-12 final, under 43 cashes. The Jets now dropped to 7-6. They're out of the playoffs right now. They're ninth in the AFC currently. Buffalo, with that win, is now back to first. Just creeping and crawling, struggling a little bit. Allen not playing his best football, and right now they'd have a first round bye. So they're sitting pretty there. It was a defensive battle. It was rainy. Josh Allen did not have his best game. Honestly, everybody for Buffalo, fantasy-wise, was a dud, except Allen, who still ended up with 20.5 fantasy points, which was good enough for QB7 in half-point PPR leagues, 147 yards passing, only one passing touchdown, but he did have 47 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. Dawson Knox, really the only relevant guy on that side, 4 for 41, found the end zone, and obviously when you find the end zone, you become a top 5 tight end. He was tight end 4. Diggs, 3 for 37. Gabe Davis, 3 for 31. Singletary, 8 carries for 39 yards. James Cook resurgence? Absolutely not. 4 carries, 6 yards, 1 catch, 9 yards. So if you started anybody on Buffalo, which you probably didn't start Dawson Knox because he's been trash and there's really no reason to have started Dawson Knox, the only person you were happy with starting, Josh Allen, maybe Tyler Bass, and the Buffalo Bills defense, I guess. Because again, Diggs, and again, these people are so lucky that this is the week before playoffs that premier players like Stephon Diggs had such a dud week. On the other end, Mike White, 268 through the air, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He left the game after getting what looked like the hardest hit I've ever seen a quarterback get hit legally.
He bent
the hardest legal hit I've ever seen put on a quarterback, man. And you feel for that guy, but that's the best tackle you could possibly make on a quarterback, And so he got destroyed. You could tell the ribs, something was up with the ribs, and it is a ribs injury, but he is day-to-day. Zonovan, Bam Knight, Shishot, RB13 on the week, 14.7 fantasy points, 17 carries, 71 yards, and a touchdown, 2 catches, 6 yards. Michael Carter was a no-show, and I think, did he also get hurt? Did he get hurt later on in the game? I don't know if he left the game early or something. Maybe I just imagined that because he sucked. But it was all Zonovan. It was all Bam. Zonovan, Bam Night. And Garrett Wilson, 6 for 78. Elijah Moore, 6 for 60. Tyler Conklin, 5 catches, only 28 yards. Again, game closer than the spread, which we thought was going to happen. The Jets played hard. The Jets played tough. But, it was a shitty game in the rain, and their offense really couldn't muster up any touchdowns. And again, credit to Josh Allen. He pretty much kind of carried the squad, running the football, running in for a touchdown, and not much was done in the passing game. Sauce Gardner, a couple of replays that I saw against Stephon Diggs, man, he had that dude locked the fuck up. So Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, I mean, you gave everybody that deserved compliments, except for the Jets defense, which got 9 fantasy points against his Bills offense. So now I have no debate. Like, I'm going to start Jets defense every freaking week. I don't give a shit who's going against them anymore because – yeah, we talked about the Cowboys defense and 49ers defense being good defenses, but they're good defenses from an opportunistic standpoint. Like the Cowboys will give you 25 points maybe, but from a consistency standpoint, it does not get any more consistent than the Jets defense.
Yeah, they were solid. Again, defenses, kickers, and quarterback Allen and Zonovan Knight, I guess maybe. And you're probably okay with Garrett Wilson's performance as well. But no, Buffalo first place. Again, despite their struggles recently, they're still 10-3 in first place in the AFC.
Absolutely. All right. The Battle of Ohio, which has actually been Burrow's weakest link. He's 4-0 against Patrick Mahomes. He's 0-4 against the Browns in his career. Like, make it make sense, right? But guess what? He did just enough offensively And the defense stepped up as well, and they finally ended this recent domination that the Browns have had over anybody in their lives, and took over the Battle of Ohio. Burrow actually started off really ugly. I don't know if you guys watched this game, but it was just like, I was like, bro, here we go again. What are you doing? Why is this Ohio thing just so hard for you? But started off slowly, but it took off, later in the game, and those 2 touchdown passes and the perfect passes on third downs late in the game, which they were actually rated number 1 in third down conversion, like we mentioned a couple of episodes ago, and they're also number 1 in the league in time of possession. And they kind of started playing their game again later in the game, and it worked out. It worked out against a shitty ass Browns team. Also, Mixon, pretty good game. Only 14 touches, rushes for 96 yards and 2 catches for 10 yards, but that's pretty good looking at the grand scheme of things. P. Ryan ended up running into the end zone. I think it was a 16-yard touchdown, so still pretty impressive. But that's pretty interesting to just kind of take a step back and look at, because before that P. Ryan resurgence about 2 weeks ago, he would have never gotten the opportunity to get that touchdown. So it makes you wonder, how high is Mixon on your rankings now moving forward if P. Ryan is getting touches in the red zone? Chase, 10 catches on 15 targets for 119 yards and a touchdown. Had no doubt. Put him back in your lineup. Let's get back to work. DPJ, my start of the week, because of the time that Watson was going to have. He was definitely going to be started. 8 catches for 12 targets for 114 yards. Njoku, 7 catches on 9 targets for 159 yards and a touchdown. Chubb got held. A lot of running backs this week couldn't run the ball. It was very, very surprising. All these stud running backs. ETN couldn't run the ball. Derrick Henry had a pretty good game actually towards the end. And then Chubb couldn't run the ball. A lot of receiving days for running backs. But he got held. 14 rushes for 34 rushing yards. 3 catches for 20 receiving yards to kind of salvage out the day. But at the end of the day, Deshaun Watson is still waiting for another win in the NFL.
Yeah, things to note. I mean, Higgins got hurt, Boyd got hurt, so that really helps Chase owners for sure. Maybe not so much as Burrow owners because he's losing weapons. Even Hayden Hurst is hurt, but it looks like their only offensive weapon right now is Jamar Chase. So they're going to continue to feed him. I expect 15 targets pretty much every game.
Man, I was feeling bad for all these people with all these injuries, but then later throughout the year, I'm like, bro, everybody's getting hurt, bro. Like, if you're a good team, you're going to find ways to fix your injuries, and the Bengals did just that.
Yeah. I thought Deshaun Watson looked a little better. He didn't look as rusty.
Compared to last week, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
Awesome. Well, Ohio's for lovers, but Texas is for the boys. And that takes us to Texans at Cowboys. So the Cowboys end up winning this game 27-23, a gut-wrenching, heartbreaking loss to the Texans. Man, the Texans were pretty much up like the whole game. They brought in Driscoll, who was on their practice squad, and that just changed everything. This guy was looking like Daniel Jones out there with his speed. He was running those RPOs and getting those first downs, just run the ball. And I think that just kind of confused the Cowboys. I've never seen a team do a split quarterback as the Texans did. Like, at some point, Driscoll was in the game. At some point, Davis Mills was in the game. It was just wild. But it seemed to be working all up until the last drive, 98-yard drive. Cowboys come back and they score a touchdown. Threw the ball to Dalton Schultz often and threw the ball to Noah Brown. Noah Brown had a solid game, 85 yards on 4 catches. I have to talk about Tony Pollard, 2 touchdowns, 1 passing, 1 rushing touchdown. And then Ezekiel Elliott also had a touchdown as well. Both of those 2 running backs, solid day, solid game for them. But yeah, man, it was just one of those games where like everything was going the Houston Texans' way. The Cowboys, were the ones that were losing the game. They had a muffed punt return. They had 2 interceptions. And I believe there was a turnover downs on the red zone by Zeke. So, everything was going well until the last drive. And, the Cowboys just turned it up a notch.
98-yard drive.
98-yard drive.
And what did that start from? That started from their 4th down stop at the goal line, right? So they got the ball at the 2 because 4th and goal. They had a chance to kick a field goal. They could have kicked a field goal, gone up 6 points, but going up 6 points means a touchdown still loses the game. And
Yep.
that's how much Lovie Smith probably didn't trust his defense in that situation. So you're like, you know what? We got to punch it in. And I think it's the right call. You're 1-11, 1-10, like 100% you go for that. But the fact that they didn't get it, a little bit of momentum, and then the offense gets the job done, man. I thought, when they were moving that football and they got the ball outside the 20 and the clock was ticking, I was like, this game's over. But it's never over in the NFL.
Yeah, to have an interception in the opponent's red zone with 3 minutes remaining, you think that the Texans are going to end up winning this game, but they don't. Some things I want to mention is Nico Collins and the other
Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks, yes, thank you. Brandon Cooks was out. So Chris Moore, 10 receptions, 124 yards. So they gave him the ball and he saw targets. So maybe a potential waiver option for the Texans. And then Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce got hurt that last drive that you're talking about. Ogunjobuji, I don't even know his last name, but whatever it is. And Brooks Burkhead were the ones that were getting those, trying to get to the touchdown, and they couldn't do it. And I think it's partly because Dameon Pierce wasn't there that hurt their chances. So something to monitor Dameon Pierce's injury.
Yeah, at this point, if you're even a Pierce owner, you're probably like worried about starting him in the playoffs. So he's probably somebody that's you have to figure out if that's the best situation, anyways. But now that he's hurt, it's almost like it takes the decision making away from you in a good way. You're like, all right, I just don't have to fuck with that.
Yeah. What college is Driscoll from?
I think like Florida or something. Yeah,
because I remember watching a Florida game like a couple of years ago, and I remember seeing like this quarterback with a ginormous donk. And I'm pretty sure it was this guy.
Yeah, University of Florida. Before transferring to Louisiana Tech. Yep. 29 years old. I remember him too. I don't remember that part, but I remember Jeff Driscoll.
Dude, it's hard to not remember that part. Just saying.
Something stay with you forever. Jeff Driscoll's dog. That takes us to Detroit, where Vegas was right. I was wrong. The Vikings were traveling to take on their NFC North foes. Detroit at home favored by 2 points. They win this game 34-23 final, over 51 cashes. Detroit covers the spread. They're now 6-7, 9th place in the NFC. So they're slowly creeping and crawling. Minnesota drops to 10-3. They're still second. They still hold that second spot right behind Philly. Again, like I said, Vegas was right all along. I went on this huge tangent about the Vikings don't get no respect. And I knew a lot of it was built on emotion because the advanced stats tell you the Vikings are not a great football team. And I see that. I agree with that. I know there's a ton of flaws, but I still found it weird that, the Vegas betting lines were still that highly in favor of Detroit, but Detroit looked phenomenal. Their offense could not be stopped. Jared Goff, QB3 on the week, 26.1 fantasy points, 330 through the air, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. DeAndre Swift got hurt. What else is fucking new? 6 carries, 21 yards, 3 catches, 18 yards. Jamal Williams also couldn't run the ball well, which was a theme for both teams. Williams, 16 carries, 37 yards. Dalvin Cook, 15 carries, 23 yards, 1 touchdown, rolled into the end zone, also lost a fumble, only 8.1 fantasy points for Dalvin. So neither team ran the ball effectively, but the receivers were cooking on both ends. And the quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins, QB5, 25 points on the week, 425 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and the receivers 8. Justin Jefferson, record-breaking game, franchise record in receiving yards, 223 yards on 11 catches, and no touchdown, but he was the wide receiver 2 on the week with 27.8 fantasy points. That's pretty unbelievable. Adam Thielen had a good game, 7 for 65 and a touchdown. Hawkinson, 6 for 77 in his revenge game. KJ Osborne, 5 for 38 and a touchdown. We talked about how the receivers were going to have to eat in this game, especially repeating JJ's performance from last time he played Detroit, and they all were a huge factor. Even on Detroit side, DJ Chark, 6 for 94 and a touchdown. I guess Amon-Ra probably was the one guy that you would have expected to have a little bit better of a game, 6 catches, 68 yards. Josh Reynolds, 5 for 51 and a touchdown. And Jameson Williams, first catch of his career, ended up being a touchdown, 48 yards. So again, the story of this game, the Minnesota Vikings defense is absolutely atrocious. They cannot stop anybody. This bend don't break bullshit it had been bullshit. We already knew that we were going to eventually regress to the mean where everything was going our way the first 10, 11, 12 games. That was eventually going to come back and bite us in the ass. But the one silver lining, it happened 13 games into the season. We're still 10-3. And there's plenty of time to try to correct the shit on defense. Whether Donatel is no longer calling plays, whether, they fire him fucking, right now, which wouldn't be the craziest thing to have happen. Like if you're 10-3, you're serious, you have a serious chance to make a run in the playoffs, and you have this weak ass of a link on your team, which is a really big part of it, the entire defense, then you have to make changes. Otherwise, you're literally just going into the playoffs to get bounced in the first round. So I'm hopeful that there's enough weeks that, leading into the playoffs that this happened in, that they can try to correct this shit. So I don't know what your thoughts are on the game.
I mean, I literally told you what was going to happen in this game. Like everything just played out exactly like it was supposed to. That we were just way too overhyped for this game. The Lions have a way better offense than we do in the grand scheme of things. They're just have a better offensive line. They have time to throw. Their defense is better than ours. It was set up for failure from day one. We're not as good as we think we are. We're just not. And the tweaks that need to be made, I don't know if we're going to make them. That's the sad part about being a Vikings fan. It's like we understand the reality of what's going down and what's going to happen, but yet nothing is going to change. Nothing's going to change. And that's the shitty part, because we're still going to play the shell defense and just ride it out, right? So like, prove me wrong, Vikings, change something, because at this point it's week 14. I literally wrote this game script for you and it exactly happened the way it is, except the Lions didn't score one more touchdown. Thank you. Good job, defense. You held it to one less touchdown. But it's so predictable. If a guy on a fucking podcast like miles away can predict what's going to happen in this game, what do you think other defensive coordinators are going to do? Like, it's too predictable. There's just same offense, same defense every week. Ball's going to JJ. Dalvin Cook's going to get it here and there. Tight end's going to get it in the middle. The defense is going to play shell defense. It's so predictable. And when you're that predictable, there's going to be opportunities where another team is just going to try something new and surprise you. And that's literally what's going to happen if we don't change something. We can't move forward and make it past a certain tier of defense. Like even the second tier of defenses, we're not going to make it past them. We're just not.
Yeah, disappointing on the offensive side. Not as much worried about the offense, because we should be better, which that still kind of is weird, as I don't know why we're not. Like, I think we only had 7 points into the third quarter, which Detroit's 31st in the league, and we're the only worst defense. So that also doesn't make sense. It's just like when things don't come together for us, nothing comes together. Right. It's like the worst of everything happens. It's not just like, oh, this part fucked up, but we have this part to bring us, together, carry it forward. But it's like when the defense early in the game got stops, the offense couldn't score. All of a sudden, the defense can't stop anything. The offense fucking goes crazy. They can score every possession. And you're just like, there's no sense of urgency when we're like in the driver's seat. But when we're not in the driver's seat, all of a sudden, Kirk and JJ are like Jerry Rice and Joe Montana 2.0, like they can't be stopped. So why not? If they cannot stop that for 4 quarters, do that exact same thing till they show you they can stop it. And then you make a change. So you're right. It is super frustrating. I know the reality is that a lot needs to change. 10-3 is the record, which will get us into the playoffs. But at this level, we're going to get bounced in the first round, and there's no doubt in my mind about that.
Other things I have no doubt in my mind is Lawrence, bro. This guy's up and coming, and he's going to be great, right? I think we have enough data, at least I think in my eyes, that we are seeing somebody that has actually made serious progression in their career as a startable NFL quarterback. We saw what happened last year, and there was a lot of freaking out going on, a lot of scrambling, a lot of freaking out. But the poise we're seeing here is very, very reassuring. I did mention last week, the Titans secondary is absolute shitbags, right? Like, they're bad. They had allowed 22 passing touchdowns. Well, now it's 25 touchdowns. And with the 25 touchdowns came a lot more yards too. Lawrence had 368 yards, and he also ran one in. So from a fantasy standpoint, I don't know where that ranks, probably number 2 or number 3 as far as quarterbacks go for the week. But overall, we're starting to see a progression for a startable QB1. So overall, there's some serious progression happening here, and we saw that with Fields a little bit early, but I think it's time to kind of keep your eyes on Lawrence and see where he sucks, because right now I'm seeing a lot more things that are getting better than the things that he hasn't improved, and we can still be like, okay, he still sucks at this thing. Those things that he sucked at before no longer suck, or it's hard to find those things now. So that's where my eyes are going to be the next couple of weeks, being like, wait a second, is this guy worth like drafting before Justin Herbert next year? Those are the things that are coming to my mind, because he does have the legs to do that, and now he's starting to show some signs of some serious fantasy points coming into your team. Over the last 4 weeks, I believe there's been like one bad week, and that was like 17 points or something like that. I think we've hit 20s and 30s over the last 4 weeks. I'm not exactly too sure, but I'm pretty sure they're pretty high.
20.9, 24.9. He had 16.3 last week, and then 33.4 this week.
Right. And over the last stretch before playoffs from a fantasy standpoint, like I would love to have that on my team, right? Um, Travis Etienne, 17 for 32 rushing, just probably his worst game as a pro, and he didn't get any catches, so a little odd. But also we kind of knew this, right? Titans have a really bad defense. They're going to attack the secondary. That was the game script for the Jaguars, and they didn't shy away from that. Also, the one time I say to start Evan Ingram, I did mention this earlier, the motherfucker goes off, right? Didn't have the luxury of having him on my team, but just sat there on my couch and I'm like, damn, God finds so many ways to punish you for so many things, and this is just one of them. You're like, dang, like when you know someone's gonna have a good day and they have a great day, and you hate that person, and that person's not on your fantasy team, it's like the quadfecta of just sit there and smile because there's nothing you can do. But 15 targets, I mean, that might be the most he's gotten all year, and maybe the most he had all year last year, maybe the most he had the year before that too. 11 catches for 15 targets for 162 yards and 2 very impressive touchdowns. He didn't just like tumble into the end zone or tip pass. Straight Moss status, especially the one on the left side. I had to double check it was number 17 and not like number 14 or number 15 or something. I had to double check that. But more things. We talked about how you shouldn't start Titans passing game, even though the Jags are 28th in passing yards allowed. And bingo, that also hit smash dab in the middle. Titans wide receivers are not startable. They're not good. They're not in a system meant to succeed for a wide receiver. They're not going to get that love that you get from other teams where you have a potential of getting good fantasy points. The potential does not exist. Some flashes. We got some from the Chigoziem Okanawoko. So maybe this is who Kyle Pitts was supposed to be. Like he's got the build. He's got the build of a little bit tinier looking Julio Jones, and he's got the build of a Kyle Pitts. 6 targets, 45 yards, and a touchdown. Is a nice little touchdown down the middle. The other tight end was used pretty significantly as well. Hooper, correct? Hooper, I think I didn't write it down, but I believe it was like 60, maybe close to 60 yards and like 5 catches or something along those lines. Not that crazy, but good enough when we're talking about having issues at the tight end spot. And last person need to mention this game is Derrick Henry. Started off a little bit slow, but 17 rushes for 121 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches for 34 yards. All he does is destroy his division. So there's like a crazy trend someone posted on Twitter where if you look at all the games he's played against all of his division opponents, the average total yards is like close to 200. And I wouldn't even be shocked if it's over 200, but I believe it's like really, really close to 200 over the last 2 years, including this year. So very impressive. However, just not good enough. Again, we live in the world where this is the year of the passing quarterback, the years of stud wide receivers. Running backs are better now when they catch the ball. The running the football shit is not going to work. It's not going to win you multiple games, and the Titans are going to have to figure that out ASAP.
Yeah, Chiga Okonkwo and Austin Hooper. You can probably start both those guys and not start a single Titans wide receiver because they're going to need to throw the football to somebody, like I said, and they love their tight ends because their receivers suck. So those, how weird in a year of shitty tight ends that you possibly have a team, you could start 2 tight ends before you could start wide receivers on their team.
Wild. Pretty wild.
That's pretty wild. All right, that takes us to the NFC East showdown. Eagles at Giants. Philadelphia was favored by 7 points, and they covered that spread. The final score was 48-22. Eagles win, and this was all Eagles. The Eagles were up like 21-0 in the first half, and lots of scores. Jalen Hurts gets 2 touchdowns, throwing the ball, gets a touchdown, also running the ball as well. Miles Sanders, 2 rushing touchdowns. Even Boston Scott at the end of the game during the sort of
classic Eagles fashion.
Yeah, fourth quarter gets
a touchdown Eagles fashion
as well. AJ Brown had a touchdown. Devontae Smith had a touchdown. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it looked a lot like Diggs did in the Minneapolis Miracle, where the safety just kind of like over.
Yep. He like didn't hit him. He like jumped right past him.
Went right past him, and it looked a lot like that. So lots of touchdowns from the Eagles side, and Eagles just they're big. Their offensive line is great. Their defensive line is great, and their defensive backs play aggressive. So not a whole lot for the Giants to work with. I thought Daniel Jones had a pretty good game fantasy-wise. He had a touchdown passing the ball, touchdown rushing the ball. So you probably still got 20 points in some leagues for Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley, he was there, but then he wasn't. He was hurt, and then he wasn't. So they had I think it was Brickwell, I believe.
There's
Uh,
Breida
Bright,
too.
Brightwell, yeah,
Breida, yeah, Brightwell. Mhm.
Brightwell and Breida shared the responsibility. Saquon had 9 carries for 28 yards, but and he also had some catches as well. But it just didn't look explosive, and so it wasn't a good look for Saquon Barkley. And if you have him, you definitely have to monitor him and see if he's got some injuries that he's dealing with. His first 5 games versus the last 10 games have just been night and day. He's just been a different running back in
Running
the
out of
latter half.
steam.
Yeah, that's
Probably,
the problem with like high volume running backs. Like watch Jacobs next year, probably going to be following a very similar pattern. And we knew that Saquon Barkley had a neck injury going into the game. A neck injury for a running back who leads with his neck, right? Like there was a lot of things pointing towards, if I have better options, I should probably play the safer route. But it is Saquon Barkley, and not everybody has like a freaking stud waiting to just replace another stud like that. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but this is the reality of running backs, man. Like, and this is why they're so valuable when they're good, because they're not going to last very long.
yeah, I don't like their offensive line either. I mean, they were
Yeah.
playing the Eagles, whose offensive line is amazing. So, like that being said, like Brightwell or Breida, I don't like any of those options if Saquon Barkley isn't playing. And then on the receiving side, Richie James for the Giants had 7 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. And then Isaiah Hodgins had a touchdown as well, back-to-back touchdown games. But I don't see myself starting any of those players. I would still lean towards Darius Slayton. I'll have to look at the matchup next week for the Giants, but just don't look at the touchdowns and get too excited about
They
that.
play the Commanders next week.
Okay, well that kind of changes things a little bit. Maybe now Darius Slayton comes back into the mix there. But yeah, I mean this is all Eagles. Eagles are like they're the best team in the NFL. I don't think
Are we
any other
back? Are we ready to forget about the Redskins game now? Are we sure now?
Yeah,
All right.
100%. I mean,
Okay.
like that was a fluke. That was 3
All right.
turnovers.
Good.
You're right. That was I mean, the Eagles are for
Every
real.
team has games like that in
Yeah.
every season, the best teams in the world, right? But when we're like caught in the midst of all of it, it's so easy to be like, "Oh, wow, holy
It's
shit, red
sexy.
flags." But
It's like
eh,
it's the new shiny thing, right? Like when
yeah.
someone's really good and you're like, oh wait, nope, just kidding, you're bad. Like it's fun to latch onto that, but it's a long
It's
season.
not bad, but maybe you have an Achilles heel, but I don't think that they do. I think that their
Yeah,
team
they
offense.
wanted to win it all, and they had
Yeah,
the Achilles heel and literally went and like did something about it a week later. Like they went and signed 2 guys, not 1,
Yeah, must be
2.
fucking nice.
Yeah, like whereas some other teams just sit on their fucking ass all day and do
yeah.
absolutely nothing and rest on their laurels. So yeah, that's the true sign
What
of a
does that
team
even
that it
mean?
knows how good they are and wants to win it now.
Yeah. So fun. I'm just gonna close with this. The Eagles are really good. They have 10 rushing touchdowns for Jalen Hurts this year, 10 rushing touchdowns for Miles Sanders, and then 10 receiving touchdowns for AJ Brown. I mean that's never been done before
Damn.
in Eagles
It's
history.
never been
So
done before. Damn.
yeah, like
Yeah,
they're fucking good.
Jesus.
they're fucking good. They are fucking good. Another line that didn't make sense, but this one actually played out the way we thought it would. Ravens at Seattle or at Pittsburgh Steelers here. Steelers at home were favored by 2. Ravens win the game 16-14 final. Under 36.5 was the lock. Ravens now 9-4, the third in the AFC. Pittsburgh drops to 5-8. Kenny Pickett was the story, left the game with a concussion. Really unfortunate for Kenny Pickett prop bet owners. That's the worst way to lose a prop bet is when a guy gets hurt in like the third play of the game. And you're just like, well, the God really wanted me to just flush that money down the toilet, then I might as well have just done
He
that.
was probably gonna get it if he was still in the
Yeah,
game. I mean,
he had like 2 for 16 or something. Yeah, he was on his way, man. He was
Right.
on his way. Mitch steps in, 276 through the air, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions for Mitchell Trubisky. Najee rolls into the end zone. Otherwise, another typical Najee day, 12 for 33, 2 for 17. Deontay Johnson had 6 catches for 82 yards. Pickens, 3 for 78. Freiermuth gets into the end zone, has 3 catches for the third consecutive week on 33 yards. 3 catches, 33 yards and a touchdown puts you at tight end 6 on the week. So that is not too shabby. Other side, quarterback hurt again. Tyler Huntley also left the game late with a concussion. Anthony Brown, undrafted rookie quarterback from Oregon, took a couple of snaps. But the story on that side, what the hell? Where did J.K. Dobbins come back from all of a sudden? RB9 on the week, 15 carries, 120 yards and a touchdown. I'd be hard pressed to find many people that just deployed him right away, a week removed from being injured, with how injury prone that dude is. But if you did start him because you had to, or, because you can see the future, fantastic look there. But it did look like he got hurt again. So do not be surprised if he's back on the injury report heading into this week. He did his best Greg Jennings Madden impression with the video where he's holding onto his leg and running for a touchdown. That's literally what it looked like he did, was pulled his hamstring mid-run. But despite all the amazing J.K. Dobbins stuff, Gus Edwards still had 13 carries for 66 yards. So not too shabby for the Ravens run game. Overall, all they did was run the football. DeMarcus Robinson, 5 for 52. Deshaun Jackson, 2 for 34. And Mark Andrews, 2 catches, 17 yards, tight end 23 on the week. Imagine 22 other tight ends you could have started over Mark Andrews. That's shit.
I already imagined it. It's already been imagined.
Just crazy.
Yeah, this shit happens. What are you going to do? Speaking of shit happens, spooky season happened once again. I wonder if someone had mentioned something like that earlier that week. No, but for real, like, it's a division matchup. Kansas City's defense is it's fun. It's cool. It's just bad. And, just good things happen for Russell Wilson once for a change, and I'm happy for him. It was still a bad game from Russell Wilson. Things just worked out really well for Russell Wilson there. At the end of the day, let me just give you a series of unfortunate, spooky events that just would never happen any other day, and it all happened on the same game, right? Marlon Mack got a receiving touchdown that was over 60 yards. Jerry fucking Jeudy got 3 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes threw 3 picks. Travis Kelce had 4 catches. Jerick McKinnon had 112 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns, bro. If that's not the weirdest amount of shit happening in one game, I don't know what is, okay? I don't know what is. So, other things to note outside of some of the spooky things, Pacheco, he's going to run the ball, right? He's going to run the ball there. They love running the ball with him. And this game, I think, would have been a little bit different. I think I did mention last week that, like, if the game's close, the Chiefs are going to run the ball with Pacheco. Or if they think they're going to win the game, they're going to run the ball with him. If they feel like this is an actual good offense, they're going to try to compete with more McKinnon in the game. And that's kind of what happened this game. Is early on, the Chiefs kind of did really good. They're running a lot with Pacheco. They're like, all right, we got this. And then they start creeping back up. The Broncos start creeping back up. And they're like, wait a second, we need to do some other things. And that's when McKinnon got those touchdowns and basically just put everything away at that point. So it's fair to say it's pretty predictable what to do with the running back situation for the Chiefs if they encounter a good offense versus a bad offense. And it's got very little to do with the defense. Some other things that we should probably just keep track of. Latavius Murray as a starting running back, 8 for 32. It was just bad for him. He's not going to be able to keep up with the Chiefs offense. They're going to have to throw the ball, right? Boone, he goes 3 carries for 2 yards and 2 IR visits now on the year. That story is officially a closed door. Next year, probably never going to hear the word Boone ever again in our lives.
Yeah, what a weird game. What a weird game.
The weirdest.
Russell Wilson throwing touchdown passes. When he started doing that, I'm like, holy shit, bro. You came back from the future and saw that, because in no world was I going to be like, this is the week Russell Wilson's throwing his touchdown passes. But dude, I don't know what the hell happened. And then it sucks. I don't even know if did you mention Russell Wilson left with a concussion? So
no, I didn't.
That's the whole thing. The story comes full circle. He has the best game of his season, and then he gets hit in the head, and he's
sold his soul to the concussion gods.
Yeah, dude, fuck. Damn. That's just terrible.
Concussions, man, they just suck.
Dude, there's been so many of them.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man. Let's invent it somehow. Put our brains together and figure out a way to limit these concussions.
Well, did you guys see the helmets that the Steelers use in the training camps? There were these huge, massive
things.
Those pad things. Yeah.
Maybe that will limit it. I don't know.
Yeah, that should definitely limit it. I don't know why they don't.
You would think, yeah. Right?
You would think they would use like a squishable substance, not a hard.
I literally was like, yeah. I feel like in my head when I was smoking one day, I was like hardcore into this thing, and I'm like, why don't they have like, like how cars have like springs to like make sure things don't bounce, or like there's a way to like stop force from happening where it like takes the force, but it's not as hard. Why didn't the helmets have anything like that?
Players like bounce off when they get tackled.
I mean, that's less. If that's less contact and all it does is push you back in a bouncy form, like that doesn't hurt the person hitting it at all.
No, and it's not even the cars don't have a bouncy form. Like when you get into a car wreck, it just
Yeah.
pushes more and more and more, and then the
Yeah.
person's still intact, right? Like that's all we
Yeah.
need. That's all we need
Yeah.
is something closer to that than like a recoil.
You know how Brian Robinson started the big hat thing? Maybe we
Yeah,
just need big
big
helmets. Like
helmets.
everyone's got big ass fucking helmets protect their heads. I
But
don't
there
know.
is one positive thing in regards to all this helmet talk is that over time, like they have been doing better, right? Like imagine what
Yeah.
they used to
Oh,
wear, like a leather
Oh,
hat,
yeah.
like you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's gonna get better. I hope it's sooner rather than later because too many important people are getting hurt.
Yeah.
I'd love to look up rugby stats of concussions too. Those guys don't even wear anything. Like, are those guys not getting concussed, or do they just know how to tackle properly? Like, what? Why is there not a huge like
Oh
heads
man,
should be cracking if they're getting hit the way our guys are getting hit, right?
yeah,
They don't
Wild
wear
Wild West
shit.
out there, man.
we're
They
just
don't wear
pansy.
shit.
We're just
They don't
pansy
care.
Americans, bro.
God,
They don't care
wild.
down under.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of big head, Bucks and the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers win 35-7 with Brock Purdy as their quarterback. And I also decided to partake in some extracurricular stuff this weekend. And I was watching that game and I saw Brock Purdy get smashed in that first play. And it was a penalty, so it was in the favor of the 49ers. And I was like, oh, they're fucked. Like 49ers, there's
Yeah.
no way they're going to end up winning this game. But I was proven wrong, man. The 49ers came back strong. That same drive, Deebo Samuel got a touchdown as well. Lots of touchdowns for the 49ers. Christian McCaffrey gets a rushing touchdown and a passing gets a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown. Deebo Samuel gets in. Brandon Ayuk got a touchdown as well. So yeah, Bucks had no answer for the 49ers, and the 49ers also played really good defense. They limited Tom Brady to, they pressured him. He had 2 interceptions, so not a lot going on for the Buccaneers. The biggest storyline for me in this game is the whole Deebo Samuel injury, and that looked pretty bad. I think he's out like three
It's
weeks or
yeah,
so.
but it's not as bad. It's not like out for season. They thought it was going to be like a
Mhm.
torn ACL or
4
something,
weeks or
and it
something.
looks like it's like a sprained MCL. Actually, no, I think it's a high ankle sprain or something at the ankle instead of the knee. So yeah, I think 3 weeks. Kyle Shanahan said he's optimistic he could be back like week 17.
Yeah.
But for most fantasy leagues, you're GG'd then, so you can officially probably drop Deebo Samuel.
Oh man, that sucks. That's going into the playoffs and then like just another injury like we talked about. But I think that Ayuk is going to benefit from this. Once Deebo Samuel got hurt, that's when Ayuk had his first reception, and then he also had a touchdown. So I think that will be more incoming. And then Kittle also saw targets. He only had 4 receptions this game, but he was seeing when Brock Purdy was kind of like running outside the pocket, he was finding Kittle open. And this really was a CMC show more than a Brock Purdy show, in my
Dude.
opinion. Purdy only had 21 attempts, 16 completions, so CMC just kind of went off, and that helped out 49ers win the game. So kudos to Brock Purdy for winning the game. The Rashad White Fournette situation sucks. I think both running backs played pretty bad, but they had split time, and I think that moving forward, Rashad White will continue being a good start. And I don't even think that Fournette is that bad of a start. I think that he still gets targets and he still gets carries. He's on the field like 50% of the
It's
time.
Tom Brady. He loves dumping to his running backs. Clearly, he
Right.
has no connection with his receivers anymore. So all he has is his running backs. So he's
Yeah.
going to keep
He
throwing the
needs to
football.
retire, man. Like, why are we not talking about check down Tom? Like, why isn't that not a conversation? He checks down to his running back more than literally anybody else.
Probably because 7 championships, but that's probably why more than anything.
Fucking pass is a pass, man.
And I've got some different opinions about Tom Brady, but it might be
Oh,
recency bias.
I shove it. I could already read the writing on the wall between from your messages the other night about like something about being average and stuff. I'm like, oh my god, Shovet's drinking year 23 Tom Brady Kool-Aid and he's about to spit some hot take. Like I knew that was the train you were already heading towards. I just
I
knew it. I
mean,
knew it.
I just want like I personally want to watch all of Tom Brady's like games, like really analyze this film to figure out like how goat of a goat is he, like
Bro,
and
go. I mean, okay, take it from me and Shishot. during Tom Brady and Peyton Manning's peak of their careers, I think both of us agreed that Peyton Manning was the superior quarterback, and Tom Brady would get all the wins. He would get all the Super Bowl rings, but Peyton Manning as a quarterback was so much better. Like, he just was better. He knew exactly what the defense was going to do, but for some reason, when it came down to the playoffs, Peyton Manning just couldn't win as much as Tom Brady, right? He just couldn't do it. And like, it's not 1, 2, 3 times. 7 championships is like, that's in the football, in the NFL, where there's more than 7 franchises that haven't even won a ring. For you to win 7 Super Bowl rings, like, at some point, it's not luck. Like, he is definitely doing something. Right. It's or wizardry. Yeah, exactly. It could be one of those. He went to Hogwarts. He's got the fucking spells. But like, I don't understand how it's happening. But dude, Aaron Rodgers during peak Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning during peak Peyton Manning, Pat Mahomes right now. Like, there's so many quarterbacks I would take talent-wise over Tom Brady, but the argument against Tom Brady is impossible now. It's just there's no argument.
I'm
7 fucking championships.
I mean, that absolutely. But I'm rooting for Patrick Mahomes because I want him to be the GOAT of the GOAT. Like, he's such a better player. And I think when his career is over, his accolades are going to be maybe not 7 Super Bowls.
No,
I don't know.
That's going to be almost impossible to do. So that can't be the standard to find the next GOAT or who's going to be better than, like, if Patrick Mahomes wins 3 or 4 Super Bowl rings, bro, I'm going to be like, honestly, you're better. Like, you're better than Tom Brady. Like, right now, we're all sitting here. We know he's better, right? Like, we just can't back it up. He's way more talented. We just be like, oh, fuck, 7 rings. I feel like the opposing Yankees fan right now, where it's like 20 years have gone by and the Yankees suck, but like, 27 rings. Cool. Half of them were from before your grandparents were even born. So who the hell cares?
Oh, man.
Yeah. So you're saying we just have to become grandparents before we can talk shit about Tom Brady.
Yeah. Okay, when our kids have kids, I'm going to be like, Tom Brady sucked dick. Overrated.
Well, I'll leave it at that. Yeah, Tom Brady did not have a good game. And it's got to be unfortunate for Godwin owners. He dropped that touchdown in the end zone where Russell Gage comes in. Like, he bobbled the touchdown, and then Russell Gage gets
Listen, man. A lot of unfortunate things happen to Godwin owners, okay? A lot of the most unfortunate week of my life, probably, quite frankly. Like, that was so many points were just left. I shat the fucking bed. That's what I did. Shat the fucking bed.
It's just, and it just doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel great that you probably still did everything right. Yeah. And like, all of your players want to shit the bed in like the final week, they all
just held hands in a big ass shit circle. And
think about it like this. You could have gone 14-0. This is the first week of playoffs. We don't have bye weeks, right? And it's first round matchup. All of your team decides that they want to drop like 3 points each, like, bro. And then like, what do you do?
You don't do anything. Like, look, this
fantasy football.
Look, this is a really good conversation. This needs to happen. Okay. This is why I don't try to justify the things that go bad versus things that go good. I know, Sweetheart, you do that a lot. You're like, you know what? At least my guy didn't do that over there. Or like, at least that, like, don't let that, the fact that you even have that thought is there's pain in there to justify what you're feeling. Right. So just fuck it, dude. Just fuck it. You go win another championship, in your other league to equal it out or whatever case. Because the main underlying principle is that you can't win them all. I did a pretty fucking good job of a lot, but you can't win them all.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I do that. I never like. I'm always content with the outcome when I did everything I could do, right? But when I leave something on the table and I know I did that personally, then that fucking eats me up. That's the whole fantasy football game. That's what makes it so beautiful and so like emotionally gut-wrenching. But when like I did everything I possibly thought I could do this year and my team is 2-12 and I didn't get a win till like week 11, like I can't do anything about that. I literally can't do anything about that. So like,
that's great. That's a great outlook. I've seen people on Twitter. They're like, this is why I'm going to quit fantasy football. Because I put all my players in. This is what I expected, and it didn't happen. Like something like it's supposed to happen. Because you did that, right?
Yeah, and I told you about my friend Peter at work, who I was like basically carrying his team by like doing everything. He was 1-7. He was last place, and he won 6 in a row. He actually won this week as well. But the reason he didn't make the playoffs is the 2 people in front of him. One guy was playing against Kyler Murray on Monday night, and we needed that guy to lose. So we needed Kyler Murray to get points, and Kyler Murray dies in like the 3rd play. So like, I texted him and I was like, and he didn't get like the intricacies of that, but he's just like, man, I mean, I still wouldn't have been this far if it hadn't been for you and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it just sucks that like we couldn't see this thing all the way through. And like, he doesn't get that can happen. He's just like, well, that doesn't make sense, like, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Injuries. I mean, it's just part of the game.
Yeah. Big tangent there.
All right. I don't even know where we were. What do we do?
Bucs 49ers, shove it, wrap us up.
Yeah. Bucs and 49ers. The 49ers end up winning the game 35-7 final. Bucs probably still are going to make the playoffs. Their next two
division sucks.
Games. That makes me irate.
Yeah, they play Falcons and they play the Panthers. So if they just win that game, they still make the playoffs.
But who can control their own destiny and trump the Bucs? The Carolina Panthers, who just upset the Seattle Seahawks this week in Seattle as 3.5-point underdogs, 30-24 final, over 44 cashes. Carolina right now 11th place in the NFC, but only one game back from leading their division, and they play the Bucs in 2 weeks. So if the Carolina Panthers win out, control their own destiny, they are in the playoffs. When they were the laughingstock, they were borderline top 10 pick, top 5 pick for like the first 7-8 weeks. Seattle now 7-6. They dropped down to 8th. They're no longer in the playoffs currently. And the Panthers dominated with what the Seahawks' Achilles heel has been all year. They can't stop the run. 46 carries for the Seahawks, 220, or for the Panthers, 223 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sam Darnold had 4 for 30 on the ground, 120 through the air and a touchdown, protected the football, so no interceptions. Foreman was hurt, but still got 21 carries, 74 yards, 1 catch, 1 yard, didn't find the end zone. Chuba did, though, 14 for 74 and a touchdown, 3 for 25 through the air. Receivers, absolutely not relevant. So for the foreseeable future, do not start anybody that's trying to catch passes for Carolina. And then Geno, 264 through the air, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 3 carries, 20 yards. The RB situation was a freaking nightmare, man. Travis Homer Tony Jones Jr., 30 minutes before game time, is going to get the start. Oh my God. And we've seen that song and dance before. The dude got 1 carry for 2 yards.
Fool me once, man.
Starting the game. This is like the same shit this guy did the last time he was starting for the Saints. So get out of here, Tony Jones. But even if you didn't fall for that, if you started Homer, like the smart thing to do, you still like shat the bed. 9 carries, 26 yards, 2 catches, 8 yards. Their running backs were just non-factors because all the receivers, 8. Marquise Goodwin, 5 for 95 and a touchdown. DK, 5 for 71 and a touchdown. Lockett, 5 for 60 and a touchdown, which, by the way, Tyler Lockett, 6 straight games catching a touchdown pass. I feel like all that guy does is do that. He's one of the most underappreciated receivers in the NFL. And this was the year that I thought, okay, it's finally over. Lockett's over. No Russell Wilson. And all he does is still do the same shit. So kudos to Tyler Lockett. Not kudos to the Seahawks. They should have won this game. They could have, put themselves and kept themselves in playoff contention. But the Panthers are like, we're not going away. They are now 5-8. They're only 1 game back, Shovit, of those Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And unfortunately, Tom Brady does not control his own destiny.
Man, that was a lot. Other teams that can control their own destiny, one of them is the Dolphins. And another team that is only 1 game back is the Chargers. 1 game back in the playoffs. I mean, we're talking about a scenario where they're both in the playoffs here next week if the Chargers win. I mean, what's funny is there was a period of time between Sunday night and Monday night, where the Chargers were actually in the playoffs. The Chargers and Dolphins are both in the playoffs at the same time. I wonder if anybody had thought about that happening at some point either. But that only lasted for a little bit, and then the Chargers were knocked out as soon as the Patriots won that game. But it's interesting. It's an interesting conversation to have because would I see either of these teams beating a team like the Bills or a team like the Chiefs? Likely not, right? Like there's a lot of offensive firepower in the Dolphins. There's a lot of offensive firepower in the Chargers, but there's also weaknesses that are pretty glaring on both sides when it comes to defenses. And they don't have a Patrick Mahomes, right? Like Patrick Mahomes can salvage his lack of defensive firepower by just being himself. And the Bills, Josh Allen makes a lot of mistakes, don't get me wrong, but he has a really good defense there helping him up. So when he does throw for 2 turnovers in a game, there's a lot of times where he gets the ball right back. So, these two teams are very similar in that way. It's like there's a lot of potential in both sides. There are a lot of injuries, a lot of just lackluster performance by defenses. So I was really interested to see what would happen when 2 teams like this face each other, right? I expected the Dolphins to do a lot better. The Chargers, however, changed one huge thing. Oh, look at that. You can change your defense week 14. Who would have fucking thought? Well, what they did was they noticed that all the Dolphins do, All they do for 13 weeks in a row is Tua throws the ball between the hashes, right? There's really, really little amount of times you see like a sideline pass or a out route. It just happens very little. Majority of the time, I think it's like close to 67% of the time, the ball is thrown between the hashes to a drag route or a slant route or just middle stuff, right? So they like to take advantage of teams that have quarter defenses, and they like to take advantage of teams that even have nickel defenses, because that just means there's a one linebacker or two linebacker at the most. What did the Chargers do? Just put a shitload of linebackers out there. They dropped safeties, covered the ground. There was like times where there was only like 3 linemen at a time because they dropped them back on coverage. And I'm like, oh my God, like, are they going to retaliate towards this? They absolutely did not, because they didn't think anybody would do it, right? So a lot of chess match happening here, and the Chargers took advantage of this one. And, made me wonder, are the Chargers going to be able to capitalize with all these weapons back? And they did. They did a really, really good job, actually. Mike Williams, 6 catches, 116 yards, touchdown. Keenan Allen, out of fucking nowhere. Where is this man coming from? 14 targets out of nowhere, 12 catches for 92 yards, right? So that's it. This is what the Chargers were expected to do from day one. Volume guy, Keenan Allen, getting those third downs. Deep guy, Mike Williams, getting those touchdowns. Eckler doing his best CMC impression, 15 carries for 45 yards, a touchdown, 8 receptions for 59 yards, right? Early season Leonard Fournette or perennial CMC, Eckler is literally just that same person. So that's a lot of firepower, right? A lot of firepower, and we finally saw all this come together. It was actually nice to watch Herbert win a primetime game where like he's keeping it close for a change, because that man's a really good quarterback, and he just always ends up on the bad side of things when it comes to going up against really, really good teams. So that was interesting. First NFL quarterback to throw for 13,000 yards in his first 3 games. Major props, just not enough fantasy points, right? Like there's 1 touchdown. Come on, dog. I need more fantasy points than that. But good game overall. Lackluster game on other side. Even Hill, usually a pretty solid start. Salvaged the day with a pickup run like a little hamster. That shit was crazy for that touchdown. So, pretty average day on that side if you take that weird play out of there. And then Waddle regressing to the mean, right? Like we all knew Waddle's not number 1 wide receiver. We all saw the signs of that happening in the first 5 weeks of the season, but now it's kind of calmed down a little bit. We're actually seeing, okay, yeah, Hill's the guy. Waddle, let's just like know your role, dog, and like we'll come to you when we need you. So hopefully they kind of learn from this and kind of figure out that Waddle does need a bigger role, especially on like a deeper game or whatever. But as of right now, there's a pretty clear-cut difference. There's a lot of people arguing like, yeah, Waddle's just as good as Hill. Yeah, it's not close. It's not close. And another thing for the Dolphins, it doesn't get easier, right? Like this was a tough game for them going against a really bad Chargers defense that made some changes. So a lot of props on the Chargers end too, but it's not going to get easier. They got to go to Buffalo next week in the cold, right? In the cold, it's going to snow. Miami was using heaters last week in California against LA. They were using heaters. And that was like 55-degree weather. And now they're going to Buffalo. It's snowing out here. I don't know what they're going to do. That's not looking good for the Dolphins in their perfect weather Miami life. Chargers on the other end, they're going to host a very confused Tennessee team that really has no identity at all, besides the 1942 running offense. So I have a good feeling for the Chargers there as well. Just chalking all that up, it was a pretty interesting game. And I think we learned a lot about the lackluster side of the Dolphins things. They're going to have to clean up some stuff. They're going to have to adjust. What did they think was going to happen? They're just going to be able to get drag routes using the separation from Hill and Waddle the whole time? No, absolutely not. This is the NFL. Things change. Vikings have to do that all the time. We do a good job of that on offense, but the defense, man, props to the Chargers. Shame on you, Dolphins. I hope we see some changes next week for both of these teams.
Yeah, that defense came out of nowhere. That surprised me for sure. All right. Next up, Monday Night Football. Patriots at Arizona facing the Cardinals. The final score was 27-13 in this game. So the Patriots end up winning this game. and they do it with without the help of Stevenson, but some other rando running backs, Pierre Strong Jr., who had 5 carries, 70 yards, and a touchdown, and Kevin Harris, 8 carries, 26 yards, and touchdown. And as soon as
Calvin Harris? Wow.
Kevin,
That's crazy. I know.
yeah, Kevin Harris. And so when he got that rushing touchdown, I think he was the first one to score a touchdown. I was like writing on my notes, gotta pick up Kevin Harris for Ramondre Stevenson. And then Pierre Strong Jr. gets all these carries after that, and I was like, okay, I don't know what to make of this backfield. Hopefully, Ramondre Stevenson comes back, but he is questionable, I think, at this time. Another injury, we already talked about it. Kyler Murray was hurt, non-contact injury. Hate to see it. Colt McCoy comes in, and as far as fantasy goes, James Conner had a solid game, 15 carries, 85 yards, 1 touchdown. DeAndre Hopkins, 7 receptions, 79 yards. I know you probably wanted more from him. And then surprisingly, Robbie Anderson with like back-to-back receptions, 4 receptions for 50 yards. He came out of nowhere. Marquise Brown, not so great of a game. 4 receptions and 34 yards. But outside of DeAndre Hopkins, you probably want to stay away from all of those other receivers, especially now that Colt McCoy is going to be the quarterback. He had an okay game. He did throw an interception, and then Mac Jones kind of turned it around. That whole team turned it around. Did you know that they threw 11 screen pass attempts in the whole game? 11.
I feel like they threw 100% screen passes all game. That's all I would see is a pass at the 1 yard line or the pass at the 2 yard line all game long.
I was trying to figure out why Mac Jones is getting so mad. Like, he's just getting so angry. He's like,
dude, he's sick of the play calling. He's sick of them not letting him. He saw what he did against the Vikings defense, and he's like, I need to be unleashed. And he doesn't know that the Vikings defense is the Vikings defense. Yeah. He's like 382 and 3 touchdowns. You guys see my fucking floor this, ceiling this. Like, my ceiling is untapped. Open the playbook for me. And I'm pretty sure that's what he's really, because I thought there was an audio clip that came out of like him saying, open it up, or
throw
like
the fucking ball. He said, throw the fucking ball.
Yeah, exactly. So he wants to be unleashed, man.
Throw the fucking ball. Run game sucks. Quote.
Yeah,
end quote.
Straight up said that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny that he says the run game sucks because Stevenson, just fun fact, he leads the team in rushing yards and receptions as well. So he's the whole team. And with no Stevenson, we'll see how much Mac Jones' responsibility of throwing the ball will help them win the game.
Real quick, the Stevenson thing, like, it's really easy for me to distinguish good players from players in good situations. It's like so easy, right? That's why when you talk football, like, it's always nice to know other people understand that concept as well. Because talking to an average Joe, like I did in Albany this weekend when I went to hang out with my friend Danny, and like a lot of people, randos, just whatever. Sorry if you're listening to this. Like, it's really easy. And one of the topics, like, for example, Ramondre Stevenson, right? Like, people are like, damn, this guy's so good. I was like, yeah, there's also like 10 other good runners in the league that are probably better than him from a running perspective. And it just thought about it. And I'm like, when you are chosen as the sole offense, you're going to produce. Like, you have no fucking choice, right? Like, when you are getting 10 targets and 15 rushes a game, like, you're going to do good. Nobody in the NFL will do bad. Nobody. I'll just blatantly say that. But then when you see players that like get those 5 opportunities in the catching game and then make that into 57 yards, like, that is far more impressive. And that's when you see like these Zonovan like nights. You're like, wait a second. Like, that guy got one, like, couple of targets and he got like for 74 yards, impressive yards, versus like Michael Carter, who gets multiple touches and doesn't make much of it, So it's like that's really impressive for me. And unfortunately for Ramondre, I don't see him as like, he's a good player, right? He's a good player, but there's a reason you don't get drafted as high, and there's a reason you get started behind Harris for the long enough time as he did. Because if you're that good, as some people up in some places think he is, then he would have been utilized differently from the get-go. So just throwing that out there, you can definitely make a distinction between somebody who's in a happy place, making fantasy points, and someone who's actually like truly good at what he does.
Yeah, Stevenson's definitely a fantasy relevant role because he gets the carries. But yeah, I mean, is he great? I don't know.
No, I think that's a great point. And it's also like, let's think back to the Patriots running backs for the last 20 years, right? They have some of the most rando running backs that end up having great seasons. Absolutely. Like LeGarrette Blount was their starting running back and ran for over 1,000 yards one year. Like James White, Sony Michelle, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, like
Kevin Falk.
Flash.
White.
Yeah, like they had so many random running backs that can come in there, and it's like you said, if they're like, I'm going to get you 25 touches, yeah, you're probably going to produce into a pretty solid player. But yeah, distinguishing who's actually got talent and who's full on in the system. That's why, if Stevenson goes down right now, whatever running back steps in, Damon Harris comes back from injury because he could have almost played. He's probably going to come in and be really nice because it's the system, right? That stupid Pierre Strong had a really nice game. Really nice game. Ran the ball really nicely, but is he a great running
Harris
back?
ran the ball pretty nicely too.
Yeah. Calvin Harris could come in there. Najee Harris could be in there and run the ball really nicely. So, like, the moral of that story is you throw anybody into Bill Belichick's running offense, chances are they're going to do a good job. So I'm with you. Again, and we can go back to this because I was on this whole like Ramondre Stevenson coming into this season, bogus, right? Like where he's getting drafted and the whole I used to think 5th round, whatever. But I agree, talent level, he's not there. But situationally, if Harris is not in the equation and Ramondre Stevenson is their only running back, then he's like RB3 just because he's going to get 25 to 30 touches every single football game. And if they have to throw, they dump him the ball off 7 to 10 times. It's just the nature of the entire offense is running backs. That's what it was with Tom Brady. Tom Brady's gone. Mac Jones is here. Still running back heavy.
Yeah, my only thing with that is like, okay, you can put any running back in there, but you really don't know which running back Belichick is going to put out there next week to get you to start, right? When Stevenson's there, you know that Stevenson's going to be that guy. Without Stevenson, I'm not convinced that like Pierre Strong is or Kevin Harris.
Well, I think Harris, like not Kevin, but Damian. If Damian comes back, which again, he could have almost played this game and he was on the sideline. If Stevenson's out, those other two guys are nobodies if Damian Harris is again back, in my opinion. That's it. That is the rundown. Let's hand out some awards. I'll start us off. My first award is, look at me. I'm the captain now.
Jalen Hurts.
No,
that's a good one.
Brock
There's a lot of
Purdy.
people probably deserving of this. That's another great one. Very deserving. No, it is not that guy. We talked before the season about wide receiver rankings, who was going to be number 1 in fantasy football in wide receiver rankings. Well, lo and behold, 14 weeks, the regular season is officially over. And who is wide receiver number 1? It is no other than our homeboy, Justin motherfucking Jefferson. He is the captain now. He is the best wide receiver in fantasy football, barring Cooper Kupp. He got hurt, whatever, but doesn't matter. People get hurt. Justin Jefferson right now, 14 weeks in, has officially taken over as the number 1 receiver, and he's only caught 4 touchdown passes since week 1. So this guy is literally volume king, targets king, yardage king. If he just found the end zone a little bit more than he has been recently, like, again, the fantasy points would be through the roof. So he is officially the wide receiver 1 on the season. He gets my I am the captain award.
Nice. Couple more weeks. Let's see if he'll hold on to that title. We got my leg award. Anybody guesses?
J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah, that's what I was going to guess.
That's a really good one too, but it wasn't. This was not as good as what it could have been.
Damn it. As soon as I read that, I thought immediately J.K. Dobbins. But
that would have been.
Is it a kicker? Is it a kicker? No,
it's not.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going that route.
It's not even a running back.
I don't know.
Okay. It's no other than Mike Williams' friend, Keenan Allen.
Damn.
14 targets, 12 catches, man. Like, this old, this late into the season, this hurt, coming out of nowhere, just getting hurt every little time I blink. I'm just happy to give him an award before I can no longer give him an award for like ever again. Thank you for your service for the early years of fantasy playing, but I'm not sure what we're going to see after this game. So this is more like a retirement ceremony for Keenan Allen than it is for actually an injury.
He gets the Lifetime Achievement Award.
It's so funny. It's like I have to do like this game theory every time I see this because I'm like, I'm going to end up picking one of the guys you picked because I was going to say Brock Purdy, but then I saw I'm the captain now and I was like, oh, it's probably Brock Purdy. But no, so my award is going to be the All-State Award. And the All-State Award, as reliable as it gets, goes to Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase with 10 receptions, 119 yards, and a touchdown. Tyler Higgins out. Higgins out and Tyler Boyd out. So, he's out here just doing what he does best and providing, reliable service to his team. So he gets the All-State award this week.
Wait, what is the All-State award?
You're in
All-State.
good hands.
You're in good hands.
You're in good hands. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I should have probably prefaced
So-
that.
Insurance? What, Jamar Chase is good insurance? I don't get it. No, great awards. Changing this up from game balls, just because, we're brown, we're going to change this up to brownie points. Or I guess maybe for us, it would just be called points.
I better hurry up. I'm going to miss the
But
show.
I will give out my brownie points for this week. It is going to Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is a running back who had 17 carries, 144 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 catch, even threw a catch in there for 11 yards. That's a solid 1.6 or 2.1 fantasy points in half point or full point PPR. He is now running back 8 on the season. He is ahead of a lot of guys like Alvin Kamara, guys like Jonathan Taylor, all these guys that were supposed to be the guy. And this guy just continues to fly under the radar in this offense that has now maximized who Miles Sanders is and maximized production, because Jalen Hurts is back there and he can do it all. And he just garnishes so much attention that one of the biggest benefactors for the Eagles is Miles Sanders. Again, continues to produce RB8 on the season. I think a lot of us, myself, would be looking back and be like, God, I wish I drafted him, because everybody had a chance and he continued to get passed up.
That's a good one. I have a Miles Sanders theory too, that I can distinguish certain things just because of the name Miles Sanders. So I have a strong theory that anybody that has Miles Sanders on their team is not a good fantasy player. I think there's no good fantasy player like that knew the data that they had from Miles Sanders, knowing the situation there while they run the ball with Bart Scott or whatever the fuck his name is, and just anybody and everybody not named like one starting running back, you wouldn't draft him. Like all signs were pointing towards do not draft him. Everything was pointing towards don't draft him. You don't even get the goal line touchdown. Hurts takes those, everything was pointing towards don't get him. So it's pretty, like, just look around in your leagues, right? Look around in leagues and look at like the guys that you're actually like fearful of playing against, or like you trust for advice or whatever it is. They're never going to have Miles Sanders, or now they will. But like, I'm interested to see like if there's like a poll I could do about just like ask people who has Miles Sanders in the league and are they a good fantasy player, and like rank it from 1 to 10. It's probably not the best, the better players in that league that have Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, I would say every situation is different. If they reached for him, if they even drafted him where his ADP was, then probably not, right? Because they just took best player available. But if he's a guy like in our league where we have like Fournette and people that, I forget, Amon-Ra maybe, like 2 guys that Shova drafted, I remember just kept dropping and stayed on the board for like 2 further rounds than they were supposed to be on.
Amon-Ra, yeah.
Yeah, and then somebody decided to be like, you know what, at this price, then he's just too valuable, and then took him. You're right. That's a different situation. But I agree based on where we thought, he could be coming into the season. He wasn't like a guy that everyone's like, God, I have to have him. But again, if you did draft him, you're probably pretty happy you did. And I just checked in my other league, the guy that had Miles Sanders. Yeah, he's a pretty bad fantasy player. Who had Miles Sanders in our league, man? Shots taken. Who had Miles Sanders?
Probably a really good guess would be Amin, or probably like
I thought it was Ishan, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it Ishan?
But let me check.
Maybe, possibly. But while he's doing that, I wrote down 3 names here for Brownie Points because I felt like I'm the captain now was Jalen Hurts. So
It's Amin.
yeah.
It's Amin.
So yeah, I'm gonna give my Brownie Points to Jalen Hurts, just because like there's a lot of scrutiny, there's a lot of like not trusting on his abilities, and like just a lot of what ifs, a lot of questioning over the type of quarterbacks that are now becoming the best quarterbacks in the league. There's been a change. Like it's no longer pocket passers. There's a lot of like ambiguity in what a real good quarterback is now, and I think Jalen Hurts is kind of setting the like stereotype straight. And he has a good team, but he's also doesn't make very many mistakes. He runs the ball really well. He makes execution in the goal line really well. I think he's converted on every single 4th and 1 he's ever taken, and I think there's a lot of those.
It's all the basically they're like 88% on QB sneaks.
Okay.
4th and 1.
So just overall, like that's what I want in a quarterback. If you were to ask me, like, hey, pick from these guys, which style of play do you want as your quarterback? I love Patrick Mahomes, but if I just had to put like pick like pure speed and all that stuff too, I think Hurts is like in that what's it called, a Venn diagram of like all the skills. I think Hurts is the one that has like all of them.
Dude, he can throw the ball so well. Like those slant routes that he was throwing to AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and then like even going back to like the Steelers game, those like long fly ball throws that are perfectly in the hands of AJ Brown. Like that's that dimension of the game that he's like developed on, and that it was just running, but now he can throw the ball well too. So he's scary. He's scary good. My brownie point is going to go to CMC, Christian McCaffrey from the 49ers this week. He was all over the field, 14 carries, 119 yards, 1 touchdown, receiving the ball, a touchdown, running the ball as well. So I mean, they schemed for him, and it worked. And he was getting, over 10 yards rushing the ball like multiple times back to back, and they just kept feeding him, and he produced. So he gets the brownie points this week for me.
Yeah, CMC, man, what a draft changer, right? Like, think about this guy's season. Like, he is the biggest question mark in terms of injury. If he stays healthy, he's an automatic 1. People probably passed him up, much like myself. And then he gets traded, and it's not the most advantageous situation. Oh my God, Elijah Mitchell's getting 18 carries. Oh my God, they got Deebo Samuel running the football too. Oh, they want to keep CMC healthy. Well, Mitchell goes down, Deebo goes down. All of a sudden, it's like CMC is the entire offense. Jimmy G goes down. So the only guy they can really trust is CMC. And now you're heading into the playoffs with a guy who is in a offense with the smartest mind possible, that knows how to scheme the best plays possible. And he like is being utilized the same way he was being utilized when he was a Carolina Panther. So like, just think, he's basically taken himself from Carolina, put himself into the 49ers. He gets used the exact same way now, but he's got somebody who's so much smarter using him that way. So it's just like, he's the ultimate cheat code heading into the playoffs. If you have CMC, like, your team is in an amazing, amazing spot. Amazing. Absolutely. Some people just have it all. And then some people play it safe and draft Jonathan Taylor. Never play it safe. Never play it safe.
Fuck that, man. Fuck that.
Yeah, never again. That's it for brownie points, guys. Let's end the episode real quickly. In 2 days, there is another football game that is going to be played, and CMC, the talk of the town, is going to be playing in that football game. He's going to be traveling with his team to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. The 49ers on the road, favored by 3.5 points, over under 43.5. 2-day turnaround, 3-day turnaround, 4-day turnaround, whatever it is. There is a lot of question marks here. Brock Purdy also is dealing with an injury. And I mean, how crazy would that be if he also can't play? Like, how many quarterbacks can the 49ers continue to put into their system and just be successful and be better than average and be like, go from Mr. Irrelevant to Mr. Relevant, like, overnight? And then the Seattle Seahawks can do nothing to stop the run. So we talked about CMC's perfect path for CMC drafters. This is the first round of the playoffs. If you're a CMC owner and he's not, and you're not on a bye, like, this is a matchup made in heaven. They're like one of the worst run stopping teams in the entire football league. And now the 49ers get an amazing matchup. And now Seattle, who's dropped out of the playoffs, is fighting to get back into the playoffs. And now they have a tough schedule. So there's a lot to be made here. What are you guys looking for in this game?
Just more of Brock Purdy. Yeah. Do you know what they call him in the locker room?
Yeah.
What do they call him?
They call him Big Cock Brock.
Oh, I do remember seeing that.
Yeah, so expect him to do some more stuff that he did. He just has to be like decent, right? With the firepower that they have. I think that but the Seahawks defense is pretty good too with their cornerback situation. So without Deebo Samuel, I'm kind of intrigued on this matchup, and I wonder if Brock Purdy can do this back to back.
I'm gonna call an upset this game. I think this is gonna be the last loss the 49ers have before going into the playoffs and just being overly pissed off and just killing everybody. Something doesn't sit right. I'm not like, yes, like, it was a great game for CMC and everything, but he's literally the most fragile person I've ever never met in my life. And if the ball is literally in his hands all the time, how many games is he gonna last? Like, the knee is definitely a serious concern. And if something were to happen to him, not sure what this team would do. I know there's a lot of smart people on this team, definitely. Like, I 100% on that train. But like, how much of this Purdy thing is beginner's luck, and how much of this is something I can back for multiple weeks? But the defense is definitely strong enough to go very far. I have this feeling, man. I think I'm gonna pick the Seahawks to win this game, just because there's so many things that have gone wrong for the 49ers recently, and they're making it work. They're finding ways to win. Well, I have a feeling this one may not go in their favor.
Yeah, if it's not going to, they're going to have to learn to do the one thing they literally can't do, which is stop the 49ers running game. So they cannot stop the run. The Panthers ran all over them, Foreman and Chuba. So their adjustments have to be like, let's stop the run and just have Purdy drop back and try to throw the football to Ayuk and Kittle because no Debo. I don't know what that's going to look like. And Purdy is limited in practice dealing with an oblique and ribs injury today too. So quick turnaround Thursday Night Football. Is he even going to play? And yeah, at that point, like, I don't know, Kyle Shanahan throw himself in there to play quarterback because who else do they fucking have?
Who is the backup? Who is the backup?
I don't even know. They probably have to pull somebody up from their practice squad because I don't even know who their other active quarterback is right now because Lance is hurt and Jimmy G is hurt. And the whole Purdy, like, I feel like, Jimmy G is somebody that we also don't think is like a barely an average quarterback, and he thrives. He literally thrives. All he does is win in that system because he just doesn't do what he can't do or doesn't do what he's not supposed to do. And so if Kyle Shanahan just continues to coach his quarterbacks to just do like hand the ball off, dump it, take 3 steps back, look left and throw that football. It doesn't matter who's there, what's happening. Like if that's the way it's going to go, then shit, I don't know. Like anybody's getting thrown in there. I thought the minute Jimmy G went down, the ship had sailed for the 49ers. And then they bring in Purdy and all of a sudden like their offense is still functional. So I know losing Debo for a couple weeks changes things, but in the playoffs, you probably still don't want to play this freaking defense.
Josh Johnson is the guy.
Oh yeah, they just picked him up or something, right? Yeah.
Oh, he's good too. He's a great third string.
Yeah, he is. He's a fantastic third stringer. Runs like mobile, can do just enough. Yeah, dude. He's going to fit right in. God damn it. Super Bowl 49ers. Yeah, so that should be a good game. Again, fantasy wise for the Seahawks, you're probably still, mulling over Ken Walker's situation. If he's healthy, it's a tough matchup, but you're going to play him. Otherwise, the Seattle run game was non-existent against Carolina. And now you're like mulling over Homer or Jones or Dallas, maybe. Like that's a really, really bad spot. So maybe refrain from starting anybody there if you're running back. But wide receivers, you probably have to start. And Geno Smith, I mean, it's the first week of the playoffs. Are you deploying him against the 49ers, or are you trying to look elsewhere?
49ers secondary is not that great. 23rd, 25th in pass coverage in the red zone, and 23rd in the red zone, 25th in just regular football. So they have a lot of weaknesses on secondary. They're just finding ways to they do stuff that we want our teams to do. And like some of that stuff is inexplicable. I don't know how they do it, but numerically, like you can throw on this team.
Yeah.
Here first.
I mean, I disagree. I think the 49ers defense, cornerbacks are good. I think that their defensive line is good enough for the cornerbacks to kind of hold and play man against these receivers. So, yeah, I'd be scared to start Geno Smith against the 49ers.
Yeah, I mean, if you have like Trevor Lawrence sitting in your free agency and you can pick him up, do you mold that Trevor Lawrence situation?
First of all, you never play in that league again because you're playing with a bunch of noobs at that point. But
10-team leagues with quarterbacks. I don't think Trevor Lawrence has to be picked up, right? I mean, there's probably quarterbacks.
I don't know. It's just me.
Like if I have Jalen Hurts or somebody, I don't even have a backup quarterback on my roster. So like there's people with like Mahomes and stuff. I don't know. Maybe unless they're thinking of I guess Hurts could go down and I could be fucked. But
I think early in the season you can definitely just raw dog it with one quarterback. But now, like you cannot. There's no way you can risk like potentially losing your quarterback and have to fish for a backup.
Yeah, for sure. That is the episode, guys. That is another episode in the works. 14 weeks of the NFL season have come and gone faster than the flash. So we will be back here on Friday to record week 15 preview, where, again, for a lot of us, week 1 of the playoffs. So a lot of important fantasy information that we will go over with you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're The Only Playbook. Catch us on all podcast platforms. Watch us on YouTube. And follow us on all social media. So thank you guys so much. Have a great week. We'll see you on Friday.